Hi there guys, and welcome once again to Jonesy's vlog. So I will get on to a little bit of news that has literally just this second happened, just as I was setting up the camera and everything. But first of all, let's talk about last night's match. Obviously I did talk about it in the previous vlog that, you know, I wasn't particularly confident going into the game last night, and it was no surprise that Bradford were favourites for it. And going into the match thinking that, I wasn't left as disappointed, but it was still so poor. Anyway, I'll get on to that in a minute. First of all, congratulations to Bradford. You know, they did deserve it in the end. You know, thanks to us being as bad as we were and Murphy being as stupid as he was. But ultimately, they kept calm, they kept possession well, they defended fairly well, and they attacked with a hell of a lot of purpose, and they took advantage of having that extra man. So, you know, once again, no qualms about the defeat. You know, they fully deserved it, did Bradford. The atmosphere last night was, it was a proper derby. You know, it's a derby that is just the best, really. The atmosphere, you know, especially for the first sort of 20-25 minutes last night. It did die down a little bit after that when the game went into a bit of a lull. But you know, the beginning of that game was just a real proper derby atmosphere, and absolutely loved it. You know, it was just constant sort of singing between the fans, a hell of a lot of banter. I know there was probably quite a lot of hatred there as well. But as someone who, you know, I don't have a problem with Bradford whatsoever. I'm sure there might be some Bradford fans that come on here and give me a little bit of stick, but whatever, they can do that if they want. But personally, I loved it. I thought the atmosphere was class. Really enjoyed you know, being at Valley Parade for the first time. I think it's a really decent stadium. So yeah, get that out of the way. Well done, Bradford. As for us, the first part of the game, sort of before the sending off, I think we were the team in sort of, I like to say, control at the time. I think that was more, I mean, Bradford weren't really creating any problems for us as such, so they seemed quite happy to sit back. You know, they were doing quite a few sort of long balls upfield that weren't really posing too many troubles to us. And we created very little chances. We did have one really sort of good chance. It's probably the best sort of build-up play and passing movement I've seen us do this season, which ended up with Warnock's shot sort of going quite, you know, well wide and over. But the build-up play in between that was really decent, so that was one sort of good point. But even during that bit, there was no real, I don't know, there was no cohesion there really. You know, there was, once again, you know, there was absolutely zero width to our play. There was no pace in the squad at all. You know, when Scott Wootton at right back, which I didn't understand, you know, from the off, he wasn't getting forward. You know, there was tons and tons of space for him to run into, and he was just refusing to go forward. And there were so many times where, you know, we had easy passes or simple passes that would get us somewhere, but we'd end up passing it back to the keeper, passing it between the back four, and there was just nothing there. And you know, for Hockadays to have come out afterwards and said that, you know, the tactics were working perfectly up until then, and you know, that's the way he's wanting us to play. Well, that he was wanting us to play. That just filled me with absolute dread, because if that was going to be, you know, our best, you know, play for the rest of the season, then fucking hell, you know, I mean, it was just, you know, it was ridiculous. You know, we were on top in a game, you know, against a League One side, a decent League One side, you know, don't get me wrong, but you know, if that was what we had to look forward to, then it really wasn't worth looking forward to. So obviously then the big turning point in the game, Murphy had been quite rightly booked for a stupid challenge really that he'd already committed, and then on that yellow card, on the halfway line, and absolutely nothing, you know, there was no need to make the challenge that he did. You know, sliding in like that, he was never going to get the ball. Their play wasn't going anywhere. God knows what he was thinking, and it just ruined the game completely, because then from then on we were always on the back foot. It was just going to be a game where we were constantly defending and maybe hope for a little breakaway. And it never happened. I mean, last night, for me, Smith was completely out of the game. I don't know what was up with him, but he looked knackered after about 15 minutes. He didn't look interested. You know, there were times where we were going forward, and instead of, you know, sort of chasing the ball and getting into the box, you know, looking for crosses, he wasn't doing that. You know, fair play to him. Yes, he did obviously get the goal, which is very important, and he was in that space. But for the rest of the time, he just really didn't look interested. You know, for me, I have been a fan of Smith, and you know, I've stuck up for him a lot. You know, last season, he hasn't played too much this season, but even still, I have been sticking up for him. But last night there was no defence there for him. He looked really poor. The rest of the midfield, you know, we know the problems we have in midfield, but you know, when David Norris can come into to a match where he hasn't played for us for a year, you know, he was doing the majority of the running about in that midfield. You know, he couldn't fault his work rate. You know, that kind of summed up our midfield last night. And I thought Stephen Warnock did pretty well from left back as well. He was doing a lot of the work, putting some really decent challenges. But apart from that, the rest of the team, Stuart Taylor as well, made some decent saves in net. The rest of the team just didn't look at the races at all. And again, for Hockadays to come out and say that his lads gave 100%, and you know, if they're stuck at it, then we would get where we want to be. Well, I don't know where he was wanting to be, Hockadays, but if that's what we was going to expect week in, week out, then you know, it's going to be quite a disappointing season for us. Obviously, you know, when we go down to 10 men, we weren't going to, you know, weren't expecting to make many chances, but it just went to aimless long balls upfield. Like I say, Smith didn't look interested, so wasn't getting into positions. The rest of the players weren't getting into spaces where they could. I mean, fair enough, we did dig in and defended fairly well at times, but there were other times that we were getting opened up so easily, and letting them in. You know, even when we were, you know, still with 11 men, we still were letting them get some pretty easy possession and easy chances up front. So overall, it was just poor, and it got to the stage, you know, we got the goal. But even as soon as we got the goal, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, we're obviously going to go on the defensive now. Bradford are going to have to come at us. And I just had a bad feeling, you know, from the very start. I know that's awful to say, you know, obviously I was going mental for the goal and really happy. But still in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I can't see us sticking it out. You know, there was still, what, 10 minutes left, I think. And obviously within, was it 4 minutes, we were 2-1 down. Like I say, I wasn't particularly surprised. I mean, their first goal, you couldn't blame anyone there. It was just a fantastic strike. Just one of those things you couldn't do anything about. And the second goal, Hansen has pretty much a free header on goal, and we know how dangerous he is from previous exploits in the cup. So that was it. That was that. And I mean, it was pretty clear how things were probably going to pan out today when all the Bradford fans started mocking us and mocking Hockadays by saying you're getting sacked in the morning. So then for the entire Leeds end, the entire Leeds stand to join in with that, it wasn't really looking good for David today. So yes, he has just got the sack. He's no longer at Leeds United head coach, and Junior Lewis is no longer his assistant. So we're definitely moving forward now. But as I mentioned in the last video, in the last vlog, although I'm kind of glad that he's gone, obviously, it still worries me where we're going to go next. I mean, by all accounts, it seems like Cellino's already got a replacement sorted. It's probably going to be an Italian, and I don't really know what to say. I don't think anyone knows what to say. Obviously, it's so early after it just happening. Whether it's going to be someone we know or not, I don't know. Is it going to be Fester? You know, he was obviously involved a lot, you know, when McDermott was around. you know, it's hard to say how it can go, but we haven't got much backroom staff. You know, Redfern's in charge for the match on Saturday with very little help. I mean, I don't know who's at the club at the moment. If Hockaday and Lewis goes, it's probably going to be Neil Redfern and Neil Sullivan on the bench, so that'll be interesting to see. I'm in a bit of a speechless mood when it comes to us going forward. Like I mentioned last time, I can't see who could come in to change all this around. You know, there's talk of all these new players coming in. You know, some that I mean, we've been linked with another striker today who I've not even heard of before and isn't even meant to be that good. The whole club just seems to be panicking with everything. You know, Cellino has got us in such a fucking mess right now. And people who are still defending on certain things, I just do not understand it. He got us in this mess in the first place for a point in Hockaday. You know, he's been so indecisive in, is he going to sack him, is he not? Obviously he's decided to bite the bullet now and do it. You know, some of these signings that we're making, the majority are obviously Cellino's choice and this Salerno guy. And it just all seems very panicked and not thought out. You know, we are screaming out for some width in the team, and last night just showed that so much. And I still haven't seen anyone that we've been linked with that is going to fill that void. And it just worries me so much. I have no idea where we're going. You know, it worries me how the players are going to be feeling. I mean, the fact, you know, this whole ill discipline thing. You know, we've had 4 sendings off so far this season. You know, yes, they're individual errors, but you've got to ask yourself why we getting. You know, we weren't this ill disciplined last season. You know, four red cards in our first 6 games. Is it 6 games that we played now? 4 red cards, 2 in 1 game. I mean, are the players kind of, is that them showing that they're not happy or something? I mean, like I say last night, whether it was Smith being unfit or just not interested because he wasn't happy with how things are off the field. You know, it looked like some of the other players were kind of looking like that. You know, Murphy, it seemed a little bit out of character for him to act the way that he did. God knows what they must be feeling like right now. You know, not knowing what's going to be happening from day to day at the club. You know, I can't see how there's any respect at the club for Cellino, who's essentially in charge of everything. And, you know, when he comes out with some of the comments saying, you know, it's my fault for buying shit players, well, good God, that's going to give the new players a really big boost in confidence, isn't it? I just don't get the guy sometimes. I really don't understand him at all. And once again, I find myself saying we'll just have to see what happens. I'm not expecting much from the game against Bolton on Saturday. Whether with Hockaday going it will make any difference or not, I don't know. Personally, I don't see it happening. You know, I think Redfern's got a pretty difficult task on his hands, sort of getting everything planned and prepared there. So I haven't really got a prediction because I have no idea what team is going to be put out there and how they're going to be feeling. So that's it really, guys. I don't really have anything else to add. So, you know, if like me you were at the game last night, you know, what were your thoughts on it? You know, did you believe that we could get something out of it, or we were gonna maybe get back into it late on in the game? You know, Bradford fans as well. If you've been watching, you know, let me know your thoughts. Obviously, I'm guessing you'll be over the moon right now. But, you know, give me your thoughts on your season so far and the rest of your season. I always like to hear other fans' point of view on things. And obviously, Leeds fans, give me your thoughts on Hockaday finally getting the sack. Who you believe, who you think, or who you want to come in next. And if you think, you know, it can really change our season, or if you think it's just one of those seasons that you can maybe not write off just yet, but just maybe think it's time to worry. So anyway, I'll leave that up to you. So as always, leave your comments below or at my Twitter at Chris Jones LUFC. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and as always, I will see you all very soon.